Hello, everyone, and welcome to Phillies Extra, the baseball show from the Philadelphia Inquirer. I'm your host, Scott Lauber, and I'm thrilled to be joined this week by Phillies center field prospect Justin Crawford. We'll get to our conversation in a moment, but first, as we often do on this show, I'll open with a quick story. Spend enough time around a baseball field, and you'll see certain things that just stick with you. And sometimes those things even color the way that you view a particular player. I'll give you an example. In 2010, I was covering a Phillies spring training game against the Braves. It's a long drive from Clearwater to Orlando, where the Braves were training at the time. So I left early, got there before the gates opened, and I'm on the field watching the Braves take batting practice, and there's this big hulking slugger. He looked like Pedro Serrano from Major League, and he's crushing these moonshot homers. It was so impressive that Bobby Cox, who was planning to retire from managing the Braves after that season, joked with me and another writer that every time he watches this guy hit, he considers sticking around for a few more years. Well, that player was Jason Hayward. He was a rookie with the Braves in 2010, and he had a really good year. And 16 years later, he has 185 career homers in 16 seasons, including one this year for the Padres. He's had a good career, but not a great major league career, probably a little bit less than what people expected when he first came up with the Braves. But in my mind, after the first impression that he made on me with that show in batting practice that day in Orlando, well, let's just say if I was a general manager, he could play for me any day, right? So fast forward now to spring training of last year. It's an off day without a game on the minor league side of the Phillies, on the major league side of the Phillies camp. But I go by the Carpenter complex to see if there's anything happening on the minor league side. And just as I'm walking up to one of the fields behind the minor league clubhouse, Justin Crawford hits a ball in the gap in right center field. Now, I'd heard a lot from people in the Phillies farm system and even scouts with other teams about Crawford's speed. And I covered his dad, who was a four-time All-Star who signed a 7-year, $142 million contract with the Red Sox before the 2011 season. When the Phillies drafted Justin in the first round in 2022, I remember talking to Carl about him. But I hadn't actually seen Justin play. And here he is, zooming down the first baseline, picking up speed, and only decelerating when he cruised into third with a stand-up triple. It was easy to see what all the fuss was about. And for me, it was a really memorable first impression. Now, Justin Crawford has hit 300 at every level of the minor leagues, but he just turned 21 in January, and he spent only the last couple of months of last season in Double-A. So it was a little surprising when the Phillies decided near the end of spring training to have him open the season in Triple-A. We talked about that a few weeks ago on this show with minor league director Luke Merton. If you haven't seen that interview, please check it out on Inquirer.com or on our YouTube page under Phillies Extra. A month into the season, Crawford is proving that they made the right call. Despite being one of the youngest players in Triple-A, he began this week batting .303 with a .358 on-base percentage for Lehigh Valley. But within the scouting community, there is some debate about his potential as a hitter, because although he's maintained a high average, he tends to hit a lot of balls on the ground. Crawford's critics suggest he doesn't drive the ball enough in the air, or at least hit enough line drives to be a consistent hitter at the major league level. But I've never seen Crawford play poorly. I think every time I've seen him in spring training, he's always gotten a few hits. The spring breakout game, again this year, he was a standout in that game. I talked to him a little bit about, his start in the minor leagues, as well as growing up around the game as the son of a famous major leaguer. We touched on a bunch of other topics as well, including how he handles the expectations of being a top prospect and knowing that he's now one phone call away from Philadelphia. And if you stay with me after our conversation, I'll share some thoughts and observations about the Phillies as they close the first month of the season. As usual, we'll wrap it all up with a reader, viewer, listener question at the end. But right now, let's get right to it. Here's my sit-down conversation with Justin Crawford. Justin Crawford, welcome to Phillies Extra from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Thanks so much for doing this.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So not to date myself or make myself feel really old, and I think I probably mentioned this to you in a previous conversation that we've had, but I covered your dad during his time with the Red Sox. We actually, the offseason that he signed there, we actually spent part of a day together down in Houston after he signed, and we went to the high school where he worked out at that time, and he told me about how he got started in the game, playing for Michael Bourne's dad and everything like that. That was the winter of 10-11. I think you would have been about 6 years old at that time. So I'm wondering, what's your earliest memory in baseball of being in a big league clubhouse or just kind of being around your dad, being around the game, just in general?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, fortunate enough, my dad obviously growing up in a big league clubhouse, being around all those big leaguers, that whole atmosphere. But I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is I think it was back in 2008. I want to say playoffs, World Series, some it was a big game.
Yeah.
And I had to been, yeah, around 5, 6 years old, and I actually got to throw out the first pitch. And I honestly don't even remember throwing out the first pitch, but I remember turning around and seeing all the fans behind me cheering, and that seeing that at a young age definitely kind of stuck with me and made me be like, huh, maybe I want to do this. It was kind of cool.
I think I remember you telling us that a little bit on draft night. Was that the World Series in '08?
Yeah, I want to say it was. Yep.
Yeah, down at the Trop, right?
Yep, at the
Yeah.
Trop.
So it's interesting. You were committed to LSU before the draft, right? And I think it's always helpful to kind of put things in perspective. Like if you went to college instead of signing, I think you'd be a junior right now, which is kind of crazy to think, considering
Yep.
you're in AAA and
Hmm.
literally a phone call away from the big leagues.
Hmm.
But I wonder if you've ever thought about like the road not taken. Like, what if you'd gone to LSU, right? You'd played in outfield, maybe with Dylan Cruz, and gotten a chance to play with Paul Skeens. Like, do you ever think about that? The road not taken. Not that you're, I'm sure you're really thrilled with your decision and wanted to sign and go pro right away. But what that might have been like to have that experience.
Yeah, I've definitely thought about that before. Possibly what it would have been like going to college and playing. I definitely thought it would have been a lot of fun, especially seeing some of my friends that did go to school and did get to play, and especially in that atmosphere at LSU. I mean, I would have national championships, so that would have been really, 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 really cool. Would have obviously been able to develop there as well, and also play for an amazing coach, Jay Johnson. He recruited me to actually the U of A first, and then I went to LSU with him. But yeah, so I've definitely thought about it at times and been like, dang, like that would have been really, really cool and a really, really great part of my life. But I also kind of look back and say I'm also glad I'm happy with the way things played out, and kind of things always happen for a reason.
You must have met those guys, right? Cruz and Skeens and those guys on recruiting trips. What was
Yeah.
Skeens like at that point?
Yeah, so I actually Skeens wasn't there yet,
Okay.
but Dylan Cruz was there, and he was actually one of my hostess who was there, who took us out and kind of showed us around, and real good dude, real chill dude, and it's really, really cool. It was really cool being able to see him at the Futures game last year
Mhm.
and kind of being able to talk about that. So yeah, it was definitely a fun time and definitely good seeing him again.
Okay, tell me about the experience so far in AAA, because I think a lot of us on the outside, and I don't know, maybe you too, thought in spring training like might open the season back in Reading. It's where you ended last year. But the Phillies challenged you. They put you in Lehigh Valley. And I saw something the other day. You're one of only 4 position players in all of AAA who are 21 or younger. And
Mhm.
the list is you, Roman Anthony of the Red Sox, Moises Ballesteros of the Cubs, and Davison De Los Santos of the Marlins. That's it.
Yeah.
So what's been your impression so far of the level, the competition, and really what's the biggest difference you've seen from Double A?
Yeah, obviously it's more mature. I mean, you're going against guys that have pretty much all have big league time or have been in the game for a long time. So I think at first it was a little bit of adjustment, as it is kind of at every level when you first get to for the first time. It's kind of, at least for me, I give myself a kind of grace period to kind of get settled and just get used to the atmosphere and just playing baseball and just getting used to what you're seeing. So I definitely think kind of at first it was an adjustment and just seeing pitchers that have been pitching for a lot longer, know how to pitch a little smarter. So yeah, it was definitely took a little bit of time to kind of get used to it. But I think as I've been playing more games, I've kind of just gotten my feet under me, got a little bit more settled, and kind of just at the end of the day, kind of just remember to just it's still baseball. I mean, it gets a little harder, and stuff gets a little bit sharper, and got to be a little smarter at times. But yeah, I mean, you still go out there and play my game, and just trust my ability and play hard and play smart. And yeah, it's been good so far.
I've always heard guys say like double A is where you see stuff, right? And guys
Hmm.
have great stuff, can get you out with stuff. And then you get to triple A and they have stuff, but they also like know how to get you out, right? Like, and
Exactly.
is that kind of like a good way to sum it up? Like they kind of know, all right, I can get this guy out maybe without overpowering him, but I can throw him this pitch and he can't hit it in that spot.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely have more of a game plan and knowing how they're attacking you and how, and even from on being on the bases, guys are better at holding runners on, and just all around the game, things are a little bit more fine tuned up here. So it's been a great challenge for me because it's forced me to have to fine tune some things as well, and also just keep working and really take it one day at a time. So it's been good, and just glad I'm able to be out here and compete.
You've hit 300 at every minor league level, and as we sit here right now today, you're up over 300 again, and yet, and I'm sure you must hear it too. Like there are people around the game, there are some scouts and some people out there who say, point to the ground ball rate, right? And they say he doesn't hit enough balls in the air or too many balls on the ground. We had Luke Merton on recently, and he was saying like when you have Justin Crawford's speed, it's not the worst thing in the world if you carry a little higher than average ground ball rate because you can beat out a chopper to the left side where other guys might have no chance. What do you make of some of that ground ball talk and kind of where do you feel like your swing is at right now?
Yeah, I think my entire life has always been to, at least what I've been taught is hit the ball hard, and whether it's a ground ball, line drive, or what it is, consistently put hard, good contact on the ball. And yeah, I think when I first got into pro ball, I hit the ball, maybe on the ground a little bit more than what I would have liked. But then, kind of as the years have gone on, and just me getting older and getting stronger, I've kind of naturally just seen that ball kind of line out a little bit more. And yeah, but it's been something where it's kind of like, okay, I take note of, yeah, I've maybe hit more ground balls than people would like, but I also kind of that's kind of my game too. So I'm not just gonna go and completely revamp my swing to try to hit the ball in the air and hit home runs. And no, like I'm gonna play my game and be gap to gap, and then when I get it a little bit more out front and may carry over the fence. But yeah, that's kind of just what I've always been taught: play the game hard, play the game fast, and play my game, and kind of don't leave that. And I think as time's gone on, I've kind of been able to kind of step more into my swing and my body, and it's gotten a little better.
And those line drives, like you said, come naturally, right? I mean, I think you told me in spring training that you're, what, 20, 25 pounds bigger now than you were when you got drafted,
Yeah,
just
I
sort of
came.
naturally.
Yeah, I came in about 160 pounds when I first got drafted. Now I sit around 192, 193. So it's definitely put on some good weight, and I've definitely noticed that from just body holding up like standpoint. So yeah, I think just as time goes on, and also making little adjustments here and there. I mean, it's a game of adjustments. You're constantly making adjustments, and just doing that, and things will kind of get more and more better.
I get emails from readers all the time, comments on social media, and one of the most common questions is, "When are the Phillies going to call up Justin Crawford?" I'm sure you hear that. The Rays just called up one of your friends, Chandler Simpson, so it's coming. I mean, the call's going to come. It's just a question of when. But I'm guessing it's probably not productive, right, for you to sort of think too much about it. How do you kind of process those thoughts and make sure that I know you guys talk a lot about being where your feet are, right? How do you make sure that your focus is where it has to be instead of on, what might be coming around the corner?
Yeah, I think on just focusing on what I gotta face today. I mean, I got a pitcher who I gotta hit today and try to get some hits off of. So I think anytime I've noticed, at least for me, whenever I kind of get off task and think, oh, when am I gonna get here and do this and do that, and when's this coming and when that's coming, then I just all that does is just get me off my game, and I don't end up playing as good as I'd like. So I've just kind of just noticed as if I just fall into it, and that's just my routine, my day-to-day thing, what I'm doing each and every day to prepare for the game, and obviously when you get in the game, just playing the game. I've noticed that more results and better results come that way. So I've kind of just I do things like meditating and just try to help me ground myself and just stay where I'm at and not try to think too much about other things all around, and just try to really just try to focus on just what I'm doing in the moment. And that's right now I'm in the recovery room actually with my boots on, trying to recover a little bit. And so it's just doing that to then going outside, hitting in the cage, doing ground balls, just being in the moment and being fully present for everything I'm doing and having a purpose behind it and just like I said, getting ready for 6:45 for when that first pitch starts.
We talked about your dad and the career that he had. D. Strange Gordon, I know, is a guy who's been a mentor to you, and his dad had a big league career. Flash Gordon, obviously, some of that time with the Phillies. I remember D's playing career, and D had a really nice career for himself. I think he played in a couple All-Star games and led the league in hits, and a couple times he led the league in stolen bases. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with him, because I know it's yourself, it's guys like Chandler Simpson, Christian Campbell. He's very close with a lot of young guys who are kind of coming up now. And it seems to me too that like he's walked in your shoes, right? A second generation big leaguer with a famous dad who kind of found his own way in the game. So tell me a little bit about that relationship, how it came about, and what he's meant to you over the years.
Yeah, so I first met D when I was about 9, 10 years old, when my dad first got traded to the Dodgers. So when I was little, D was always there, and I always saw him, and he was always kind of the one even before we got really close. It just took me under his wing. I was always with him. I was always following him, and it was really cool. So we kind of built our relationship from just being around him, me being young and being around the clubhouse, and me just always being around him. I'll go sit at his locker, we would just talk, and he would really just treat me like I was one of the guys. And then obviously as I've gotten older, he actually ended up marrying one of my cousins. So then it makes him and my dad set him up and everything. So that was just a funny story in itself. And then obviously now me being in professional baseball, obviously we got really close, and he's kind of helped me walk through just the day to day life of just what we do and kind of how to go through it. And obviously him being a son of a former big leaguer as well, kind of just we could relate on a few things. So our relationship's really good, and he's just another guy that I'm really thankful to have a part of my life.
I think it's really cool how the game's passed down. And again, not to make myself feel incredibly old, but like I remember covering my first year covering the Phillies was 2006, and Flash was on that team, and D would come around a little bit. I don't
Yeah.
remember how old he was at the time, but I remember Flash telling me like, "Oh man, basketball is the sport he really wants to play." And then he got around Jimmy Rollins a little bit, and he thought, "Oh, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen is watching Jimmy Rollins hitting the cage." And so then D turned to baseball and turned out to be really good at that and became a Major League Baseball player, played with your dad, and now here you are on the cusp of it. So it's really kind of a cool thing that gets passed down by generations.
Yeah, really cool.
All right, I'll get you out of here on this. Tell me a little bit about the Justin Crawford Foundation, because if I'm correct, and I've read up a little bit on it, it looks like the mission statement is to provide resources and support for students and youth athletes with dyslexia and other sort of learning challenges. How did you come to that, and what does that kind of mean to you to be able to give back in that way?
Yeah, really that's just giving back to kids that kind of just not as fortunate and maybe that don't have the resources that I was fortunate enough to be able to have growing up. And I was diagnosed with dyslexia at a young age, and just going through the school system and things like that, it could be very challenging, and especially for someone that plays sports or just anything. So for me, at least, I really wanted to help kids that maybe don't have those resources, and just to kind of help them, give them a chance to kind of boost their learning experience, to kind of make it a little easier for them, and to know that just because you may have this disability or learning disability doesn't define you as a person, and doesn't mean you're stupid or you can't do anything, and that you can actually go out there and accomplish what you want to accomplish. So really kind of just a foundation to kind of help give kids a chance, to give kids hope, to go out there to show that you can do something, can be something. So just to go out there and really just kind of help them out.
How long ago did you start it, the foundation? A couple years
I
ago.
want to say back in 23 was the first
Okay.
year I did. We went to a school in Vegas, so back at home for me, where we went and we gave back to some of those kids. And then this past year we did one in Vegas still, and then also we're able to go to Houston to my dad's old neighborhood, and we're able to go in the inner city and kind of give back there. So really cool. Not sure what we'll do yet this year. I'm sure we'll do something again, but yeah, it's just something where it's nice. We always do it around kind of Christmas times, go get in the Christmas spirit, and it's nice to just always go and give back and help people out.
Well, that's great, Justin. I know you've got to get out there pretty soon, get hitting, and get ready for 6:45. So now that we're in the meat of the season, I know things get pretty hectic too. So I'm really thankful that you've shared some of your time with us here at Phillies Extra from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Lehigh later this year, and hopefully here in Philadelphia very soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you. Take care. I want to thank Justin Crawford again for being with us. For our Reporter's Notebook segment, there are a few things on my mind as April turns to May. Let's start with Aaron Nola. So before a game the other day at Wrigley Field, I was talking to pitching coach Caleb Cotham about some of the adjustments that Nola was making after becoming only the 7th pitcher in Phillies history to start a season 0-5 in his first 5 starts. Cotham was sharing some ideas about why Nola's command hadn't been as precise as usual. And then he left an interesting breadcrumb. As part of an answer to a different question, Cotham said this about when things haven't gone right for Nola. Quote, I think there's a piece of on those days, pivoting in game to maybe a different way of thinking, a different plan that he can go to. It's like, hey, it's not there today. Let's do something different. I didn't really think much of it until Sunday night. I'm watching Nola against the Cubs, and he's throwing a ton of cutters. Now, the cutter is his least used pitch, and over 7 innings at Wrigley Field, he threw 17 of them, one more than in his last 3 starts combined. It was the most he threw in any single start since last May 25th. After the game, and he dominated the Cubs for 7 innings, Nola said the cutter felt good, so he kept using it. He got 6 swings and misses with it, so yeah, there was no reason to stop. But it got me thinking. Given that Nola leads all Major League pitchers in starts and innings since 2017, it's possible he's going to need to give a new look to hitters who are so used to facing him. The cutter is a potential wrinkle if he's able to throw it effectively. Moving on, I thought it was notable that Rob Thompson went with Justin Romano in the 10th inning Sunday night in Chicago. 4 days earlier, Romano gave up 2 runs in the 10th inning against the Mets and got walked off in New York. But there he was, back out there, entrusted with a 3-1 lead. And sure enough, he got 3 outs on 13 pitches. No drama. And if you think it didn't mean something to Romano, go back and look at his reaction after the final out. He knocked down a comebacker to the mound by Nico Horner, took about 5 steps toward first base, underhanded the ball to Bryce Harper, then he tapped his glove 3 times. And after the game, he told me, quote, usually I try to stay even-keeled, but that one felt pretty good. Just the way the season's been going, that one felt really good. Still felt confident out there despite my struggles, he said. And make no mistake, it has been a struggle. Romano gave up 2 runs on opening day. He has a 12.19 ERA through 12 outings. And the low point came April 19th when he gave up 6 runs in the 9th inning against the Marlins, after which the Phillies suspected he might have been tipping his pitches. Romano told me, you come to a new place, big expectations for yourself. You want to prove you're good enough and that you can contribute. But in that struggle, there's some beauty to it. You test yourself. You see what you've got. I asked him if he thinks he's finally over the hump. I don't know if there's such a thing as over the hump, he said, but I felt pretty good the last week or 2. And make no mistake, the Phillies need him badly in a big way to help stabilize their bullpen. All right, let's move to our last segment. We call this Hit and Run, where we take a question from a reader or a listener. And this is a good time to tell you or remind you that you can submit a question by email or on any of my social media accounts, which you can see listed right here. This week's question comes from loyal reader Brian Rosenwald, who emails this about the Phillies bullpen issues. Brian says, at least initially, rather than wait for July and the trade deadline, wouldn't it make sense to place a call to David Robertson's agent? He's tended to fade down the stretch in recent years, but he was good last year and would immediately be an upgrade over the Jose Ruizes of the world. Thanks, Brian, for the question. It's certainly an interesting idea. I'm not sure it would be a rest of the season solution. Robertson just turned 40 a couple of weeks ago. But as you said, maybe it helps stem the tide. I'm not sure what he was looking for in the offseason in terms of salary, but I would imagine it was in line with what he made last year with the Rangers, which was about $11 million or so. It's funny, whenever I ask how far they'll push the payroll, John Middleton always says some variation of, oh, it's just money. But this is worth noting. If the Phillies paid Robertson, say, $8 million for the rest of the year, it would really be $16.8 million, given the 110% tax the Phillies are paying on everything that they add now because of where they stand relative to the highest luxury tax threshold. I'm guessing $16.8 million is probably a non-starter for them on someone like Robertson, but we'll see. It's certainly worth looking into. All right, we'll leave it there for this week. Quick programming note. Every episode of Phillies Extra is available on the Inquirer's YouTube channel or by clicking the Phillies tab on Inquirer.com. We've had some terrific guests over these last 12 weeks, from Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto and Bryson Stott and Jesus Luzardo and Larry Boa and on and on and on. Cole Hamels. I don't want to leave anybody out, but if you've missed any of our interviews, we've had some great ones. Please give it a listen and let me know what you think. That'll do it for this week. Thanks again to my guest, Justin Crawford, and to our producer, Angelica Irizarry, for pushing all the buttons and making sure that we sound and look good. Until next week, I'm Scott Lauber. Thanks to everyone for listening, watching, and, of course, for reading the Philadelphia Inquirer.